care, lead, innovate, motivate, balance. These 5 tenets reveal ways of creating a more profitable and customer-centric pharmacy. What will you discover when you climb with RMS?
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Climb. I'm Brad Jones, the founder and CEO here at Retail Management Solutions, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our monthly Climb webinar event. Now, many of you are longtime attendees, and we really appreciate you being back with us again. And then, as always, we have some first-time attendees. So let me take just a moment to explain what Climb is all about to you newbies. So CLIMB, by now you know, stands for care, lead, innovate, motivate, and balance. Those are things you do every single day in your pharmacies and your communities throughout the United States. When COVID happened, we decided we wanted to reach out to all pharmacies and take our mission statement, making our customers the most profitable and customer-centric in the industry, and offer that to everybody by bringing you an event that brings in great speakers from around the country, as well as panelists, your peers, who will explain to you some of the things they're doing that are actually working to help them become more profitable and help them improve customer and patient outcomes, things that are really important to you and your business. That's what Climb is all about. At the end of Climb, at the end of this hour, I'll do something called After Climb, where I go in and do a deep dive into our products and services, something specific to share with our customers. You're welcome to stick around for that, but that's really designed for our customers where we're talking about our products. During this event, we won't talk about our products. We're just going to bring you some great content to help you improve your pharmacy's performance. Now, with me today is my co-host, Brandon Bolesky. Brandon is our Director of Operations. Well, good morning, Brandon. Welcome back to Climb.
Thank you, Brad, and good morning. During last month's Climb, Craig Robinson and pharmacist and pharmacy owner Joe Doherty shared how changing to a transparent pricing model can improve cash flow. Joe also shared the positive changes he's personally seen in his business as a result. We also had Robbie Stokes joining Brad for a conversation on easy, everyday practices that can improve pharmacy cash flow and profitability. Both of those sessions are available on our YouTube channel, on our website in the Climb Library, and also on the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Now, coming up today, we have a very special announcement regarding our Climb Ascenders Award for October. Our After Climb segment will feature a deep dive into customer loyalty, along with some tips on running a successful customer loyalty program. We'll also have John Marshall joining us today. He'll be sharing the top 10 metrics pharmacies should be using, along with a brief Q&A with him and Brad. Now, Brad, before we get to all of that, would you like to introduce our first speaker?
Absolutely. So many of you are familiar with RJ Hedges and Associates. They offer a range of healthcare compliance programs for pharmacies, and they have expertise in compliance topics that's unparalleled in the pharmacy industry. Joining us today from RJ Hedges is Becky Templeton. Becky is a pharmacy compliance expert, board-certified DME specialist, and accredited business intermediary. We're thrilled to have Becky back to Climb to talk about some compliance issues that are important to you.
Hey, all you awesome people. Good job on taking some time to hear some of these great speakers. The folks at RMS have been lining up to help you all survive and thrive within your pharmacies. You all have seen so much over the last year and a half, and all the while you've taken such great care of your patients. So for all of that, we thank you and we say good job to you and to your staff, and you are appreciated. So welcome to Audits, Inspections, and Compliance here in 2021. I'm Becky Templeton, the Vice President at RJ Hedges and Associates, and I was so humbled to get asked to participate in that inaugural Climb Summit that we had last October, where we discussed COVID contingencies and compliance. And during that presentation, we took a pulse on compliance, spent some time outlining contingency plans, and if something were to happen in your pharmacy, what would you do? And start really brainstorming that thought process for planning. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about something that also requires some planning and some prep work. If you know we're going to be having inspections and audits, taking time to prepare is very, very important. And I've heard two different scenarios. I'm not sure which one is correct. You can choose for yourself. I've heard both. For every minute you spend planning, it saves you 10 minutes. And for every minute you spend planning, it saves you 60 minutes. So we're either at a 1 to 10 or a 1 to 60 ratio. In the end, hands down, spending time planning is really going to help you later on in execution and delivery of whatever that intentional plan is. So this year, I'd like to chat with you a little bit about some updates that have happened to compliance, things that we're seeing, that we're reading, give you a crash course on some of those items, and some things that you'll want to keep an eye on. So today we're going to talk about State Board of Pharmacy on-site inspections. That's right, they're back. DEA inspections, CMS inspections, everything's going viral, even CMS these days. What in the world is happening with that NIOSH draft hazardous drug list that we talked about? Did you know HIPAA is having a silver anniversary this year? And we'll even talk about, now that this great pause that we've been in is now over, how some of the things that were suspended are going to be coming back and taking effect. State Board of Pharmacies have resumed their on-site inspections in almost all states. Be alert, be prepared, be available. Chances are you've gone through them many times and should be a pro by now. One item to note, we are starting to see that inspectors are not just asking if you have policies and procedures in place. They're starting to actually want to review them, critique them, and in some instances want you to demonstrate them. So a good example would be hazardous drugs. It's made its way onto several Board of Pharmacy inspection checklists. In that hazardous drug P&P, you're going to need to have separate counting tools for your hazardous drugs. This state inspector may want you to verify that the tools are marked, the staff knows where they are, and that they want to see where your hazardous drugs are marked. Maybe it's indicated inside your software. Maybe it is something that you have a special sticker system you're utilizing. Maybe you have them segregated off on a shelf all by itself. So be prepared not to just have the things that they're asking for, but also be prepared to demonstrate those items. Speaking of hazardous drugs, if you joined us last year, I mentioned that there was a draft of the hazardous drug NIOSH list that was open for public comment, and we were going to see a lot of shuffling among the tables, some drugs potentially being added or removed. Well, it's still in draft. So NIOSH is actually overseen by the CDC. And since they've been a bit preoccupied, they haven't officially released it yet. It was open for public comment, that has closed. And now we are waiting. Now, we are seeing that there's some very ambitious groups and people out there that are starting to already use the drafted version. And we don't see an issue with that. I think if an inspector comes in and sees that you're taking that kind of proactive stance, that's actually a really good thing. In fact, we're already using the new table assignments on our assessment of risks that we prepare for our clients. The only word of caution I would give you, if you are ahead of the game, kudos to you, gold stickers all the way around. Just keep tabs on when it does get officially published, because that draft may change a bit between now and then. There may be some extra updates that are going to get made to it. You may see some additional drugs, maybe roll on, roll off, flip-flopping back between the tables. I know Table 3 had a lot of changes to it. That's something that I would encourage you all to definitely just stay on top of. And there are some states that are already using the draft too. I know I've heard things in like California and Iowa. There's some Board of Pharmacies out there that require to use NAPB. So you're already probably seeing that there have been adoptions to the draft, even though it hasn't been published. Beware of your DEA inspections. These are happening, and it's all about the paperwork. You should really have a hard and firm process on how you're handling these, as failures to follow your protocols can result in very large monetary penalties and possibly a forfeiture of your DEA license, which nobody wants. They're really looking for the same things that they've been looking for in the past. I would say be sure to, number one, have your background checks on all of your employees. Technically, it's everyone who comes in contact with controlled substances, and make sure you're keeping them. It's great to run the background check if you have the electronic copy, you have the hard copy, but please make sure you have those background checks, because what we're looking for, because you'll find all kinds of things on people's background checks, but the one you want to pay attention for, we have to verify that they don't have any drug-related felony charges, okay? And if they do, they can't work in your pharmacy. Doesn't matter if they're a family friend, their family, you've known them forever. Anyone with that felony charge for drugs, they can't work in the pharmacy. Okay, so background checks was number one. And number two, and I'm going to do this for a reason, pay attention to your 222s. Not just your CSOC process. I'm talking about the hard copies of those 222s. They want to see initials on all of your line items. They want to check the dates. I would initial and put like the date beside it. So I'm recording this. Today is the 3rd of September. So I put like BT 9-3-21. So do that, and definitely make sure that it's got the date. We're showing the quantity received. Be sure to attach the hard copy of the invoice, the packing slip that comes in that shipment. And all of that treasure you need to keep for 2 years. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, good Lord, you know, how many shipments do we get in a week? But it's a lot of paperwork. The problem is, let me pull my number here real quick. Let's see. I just pulled it off the website from off DEA's website the other day. Let's see. This is November 17th of 2020. It says pharmacy pays $250,000 to resolve Controlled Substance Act violations. And I will definitely include the link to the article so you can read it more if you want. But the interesting thing here, I don't think people realize the severity of the monetary penalties on this. Violations of the record-keeping requirements subject DEA registrants to civil monetary penalties of up to $14,502 for each violation. So please be mindful of your 222s. Speaking of those, whenever you're working in that system, I always encourage everybody, please make sure everyone has their own login. So if you have a power of attorney for someone to act on your behalf, if you're the PIC watching this, make sure you have that power of attorney. So you need the written letter authorizing someone to basically sign on your behalf. So that's step one. Step two, that person needs to have their very own login into the CSOC system. Step number three, you also need to be making sure that you're taking care of like the DEA 251, 252, and 253. Gotta love all these form numbers. So the registrant is going to use the DEA 251, and that person is going to be your pharmacist in charge, who is authorizing all these people to potentially be helping with this process, getting all of our controlled substances checked in whenever we get these shipments, putting them into the CSOC, and away we go. The DEA 252 is for the certificate holder. So these are the people that have the power of attorney. So you have to fill out a DEA 252, and you're going to have to staple. I feel like I need a stapler. You're going to want to attach that actual form that you're using, the letter that is your power of attorney granting them that access. So there's a couple forms in there that you're going to want to make sure that you have in place. You've got your power of attorneys, you've got your DEA 251, 252, and 253 all taken care of. On the topic of DEA inspections, we started seeing some things that were going through. We weren't sure where the information was coming from to spark a DEA investigation. And we have found that the DEA is actually using the state prescription drug monitoring programs to monitor for suspicious activity at pharmacies. Often these inspections are happening without the pharmacy's knowledge. Some of the items they're looking for are like distance the patients are traveling. If you're in a very rural area, it's not uncommon to have patients traveling 20 plus miles to get to a pharmacy. But that 20-mile mark is an indicator. So they might be looking at you being in a rural area. If you've got a lot of people coming to your pharmacy from 20 plus miles away to get controlled substances. The other thing too, pain clinics are a big indicator for the DEA to start investigating. If they see that there's a very large number of controlled substance prescriptions going out your doors, maybe a lot coming from one particular provider, you could be part of one of these special investigations. I would encourage you, if you do have a pain clinic nearby, reach out to them. It is well within your right to follow up with them, check in on their practices, their record keeping, how they're issuing things, how they're managing prescriptions for the patients, and be cognizant of it, especially if that is an indication of potentially having one of these DEA investigations. Most suppliers need to be updating their 855S because they had a pause during the COVID pandemic where they weren't doing any revalidations. And right now, actually through the end of September, you can go ahead and fill out your 855S application or 855B application, and the PCOS fee is waived. Now, starting on October 1st, that's going to go up to $599. But that was something that they did. I thought it was very, very nice that they said, hey, we're just going to waive these enrollment fees. So if you want to get started in non-accredited drugs, maybe you want to start getting into the DME sector, maybe you want to start doing immunizations if you haven't been doing it already. Those applications are great to get you started in that route. You can do your applications for new enrollments, reactivations, and revalidation. So you can pull ahead. So if you know that you're probably going to be due for a revalidation, why not fill it out now, send it in, and that way you're ahead of the game and you're going to save yourself $599. So CMS has jumped on the bandwagon of doing things virtually during this COVID pandemic. They are calling and giving you like 1 or 2 weeks notice that they want to do one of these virtual inspections with you, where you're going to have to use like a webcam. Maybe you got to use your phone or your iPad and walk around and do show and tell with them through their inspection process. Please, for the love of God, if you ever have somebody come into your pharmacy or they want to do one of these virtual things, make it happen. Do not dismiss them. Do not send them away. You have to make the time to take care of them while they're there, because they could deactivate your number. And some deactivations, they can be reinstated with an amendment to an application. That's not so bad. But others can go up to a 10-year revocation of your Medicare number, and that's for any future pharmacies. So if they pull your number at your pharmacy today and you can't bill Medicare, are you going to be able to stay open? So if you're thinking, well, they pulled this one, I'll just open a new pharmacy in the next town over. Well, if it's a 10-year revocation for all, you can't open. It's for any pharmacy that you would try to open from that way forward. So make sure if someone, one of these inspectors is coming in, you're doing your best to help them, accommodate them, getting them the information they need so they can get in and out, and you can get back to helping your customers and do what you do best. These inspections from CMS, they're the same requirements as before. You'll just have to make sure that you have a video enabled, like cell phone, maybe a portable webcam. You might have to use a tablet that has a camera on it, and basically have show and tell with one of these inspectors and walk them through your pharmacy as they're asking for certain things. There's checklists available. I know we provide them. There's a couple other places that you can get the checklists of what they're actually going to be asking for, so you can prepare and be ready for that, especially since they're giving you 1 to 2 weeks notice on these virtual ones. Outside of a CMS inspection, there's also CMS audits that are going on right now. These are for your Part B drugs and DME products, and they're really looking at paperwork. Cool thing, if you missed it, January 1st, 2020, obviously there was the start of something funky going on, but they changed the paperwork process. I still can't believe it that they actually made it easier, but all the paperwork for DME, POS, and Part B drugs changed. So if you're doing the things the same way that you've been doing for the last couple of years, chances are you missed this, and you're going to want to make sure that you review the changes that happened. So in the past, if you were using like a DWO, so that detailed written order, and it required physician signatures and all this other stuff, technically you're now out of compliance, and this has gone away. Standard written order is the new term that they're using. We're calling it a detailed product description, but the paperwork is actually just so much easier. So that's actually a good thing that happened. One of the last things I wanted to chat about is HIPAA, just kind of a forecasting thing. 25 years. They're having their silver anniversary of HIPAA this year. I don't know if you want to get little silver stickers and put on your notice of privacy practices. Might be a little bit too much. But HIPAA is going to be changing. There is some extra information that's going to be getting updated, and it's in the information technology space for data transfers between entities and the entity and the patient. Just think about the technology changes that we've seen in the electronic health record space, or patients accessing the records online, apps that are now monitoring these things. It was posted on the Federal Register. It has been closed for public comment, and we have been waiting since March. I think the delay is probably also due to the COVID pandemic. When I asked Jeff what it looked like, if you don't know who Jeff is the primary owner of RJ Hedges and Associates. It's his name on the building and on the company. He is the man with the plan and the mastermind behind all of our policies and procedures. He writes and researches and stays on top of all of the things that change when it comes to regulations. So when I asked him what this HIPAA change was going to look like, he said it was very complicated and it gave him a headache. So when it drops, we'll probably see stockpile prices of Advil going up, because I think we're all going to need it. And one last thing I wanted to share with you all, and this actually just came through our, let me get this pulled up real quick. I'm actually looking at my cell phone because this just came in. I flagged it yesterday. So this was to the NSCAC membership in jurisdiction A and B and the jurisdiction council members. So this was how I got this information sent to our company. But it said, beginning October 2021, CMS will resume some provider enrollment activities that were paused during the COVID-19 public health emergency, including application fees, which we already talked about. They're waived through the end of September. Starting October 1st, they come back. $599 is how much it will cost to do your 855S, 855B application. And that is what you pay to PCOS to submit the application. Number 2, criminal background checks associated with fingerprint-based criminal background checks. All right, we talked about background checks earlier, so we're on top of that one. Revalidations. So people weren't having to do the revalidations during COVID. Now they're coming back. We talked about that one too. Boy, we were on top of things, weren't we? But please be advised, there was a bunch of things that the government did halt during the COVID pandemic. They are going to start coming back, especially with this October 1st date. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work. They're going to extend the pandemic. Are they going to push some of these back? I don't know. But I think we should all take a couple of minutes and pause and prepare, reflect, and figure out, how did some of these things that were paused help us? How did they benefit us? But then also, what do we need to do to prepare to potentially have these inspections, these audits, these visits, these revalidation requests, these background checks coming back to our pharmacy once again? How are they going to impact our operations? So from RJ Hedges and Associates, we have been around now for 15 years. We're on our 15th anniversary year. Still doing the same things that we've been doing. Our motto is keeping you stress-free and in compliance. Compliance isn't a very exciting topic, but we most certainly try to keep our clients educated as to what's going on in the space. If there's anything that you folks need help with, we can most certainly help you with a variety of different programs, whether you need policies and procedures for pharmacy operation, non-sterile compounding operations, having your DME POS accreditation standards. Maybe you need help with Medicare applications, an immunization program, a shoes program. Maybe all you need is help with DEA or hazardous drugs. We've got lots of different options, and all of our services can be tailored to what you need, because we never want to sell something that they don't need. Because I know you all are savvy people, and you're lucky enough to get some really great resources from your state associations, maybe a co-op that you're involved in, a buying group that you're working with, and that is great. So if you need something to help fill in the gaps, maybe you want to bring everything under one roof, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about those items. And I did want to share that our company has been helping with brokerage for a number of years too. So if you're sitting there going, boy, it wasn't crazy enough this year, I think I need to buy another pharmacy. Or maybe you're thinking, boy, it was really crazy this last year, and I'm thinking maybe I want to sell my pharmacy. Those are things that we can help you with. And it's very interesting the way we do it because we consider everything from a compliance standpoint as well. So it's very nice to help our clients with that succession planning that's going. Maybe it's a generational sale, it's to a new owner, trying to help make sure the transition goes smoothly, representing one side, both sides, maybe just reviewing paperwork for you. We have a lot of people that we help with their licensure component. Maybe they need help figuring out what order they have to go through, notifying State Board of Pharmacy, notifying DEA, getting things enrolled, changing things for on NPP, ES, all those different things. So I did want to share that information with you. And of course, we also have a 401k department that we can also help our pharmacies invest in their futures. So if you thought in the past that you were too small to invest in your retirement through a 401k, there were some regulatory changes that happened in the past, I guess it was about almost 2 years ago. And that's something that we can help advise you and help guide you into, we call it the PharmaK. So it's like a pharmacy 401k where you can customize everything for your pharmacy and help provide some really awesome things for your staff. I want to thank Brad and all the folks over at RMS for allowing me to come and share a couple of things with you today. I wish you all the best as you move forward in the rest of 2021. And hopefully 2022 is a much calmer year for all of us. Thanks so much for tuning in today.
The RMS Climb Checkup is the roadmap to maintaining a healthy pharmacy business. Schedule your Climb Checkup with an RMS pharmacy expert today.
Well, thanks to Becky for her presentation. Information from today's session, along with contact information for RJ Hedges and Associates, will be sent out following today's broadcast. Now, normally at this point in the presentation, we'll announce this month's Climb Ascender to honor a member of the pharmacy community who has gone above and beyond. Today, however, we're switching things up. As many of you know, next month will mark a year of Climb broadcasts and a year of great pharmacies doing amazing things. Now, to mark the special occasion, we'll be honoring one of our Climb Ascenders from the past year of Ascenders as RMS Climb Ascender of the Year. Now, Brad, can you tell us a little bit more about how that's going to work?
Absolutely. Over the past 11 months, it's been my distinct privilege to honor 11 amazing pharmacies and individuals with the Climb Ascender Award for Excellence in Pharmacy. It would be impossible for me and my team to choose just one. So we're asking for your help by voting for who you believe should be the Climb Ascender of the Year, who best exemplifies all of the tenets of Climb: care, lead, innovate, motivate, and balance. So following today's broadcast, you'll receive information on how to vote in our Climb for the Climb Ascender in our Climb email. And right now, as a reminder, we're going to show you a quick video of all 11 of our past Climb Ascenders. Roll a video, please. Up next, I'm pleased to welcome a brand new guest to Climb, John Marshall. John is a CPA and business coach with years of experience in the pharmacy industry. He specializes in analyzing financial statements and creating action plans that help pharmacy owners improve their finances. John's going to be talking about a topic that's one of my favorites here at RMS, data and metrics, and how to use those things to help your pharmacy business. And after John's presentation, I'll be back to talk with John and do a little Q&A with questions from you as well as questions from me. So please join me in welcoming John Marshall to Climb.
Thanks, Brad, for having me today, and welcome all you climbers. It's a great program. I hope you take full advantage of it. My name's John Marshall, and I'm going to be talking about your pharmacy and my top 10 metrics. And we're going to go through these metrics and find out a theoretical grade. School's open. It's a time of mixed emotions. I know for parents, it's great. Some kids, not so good. But I thought it'd be a great time to kind of do an evaluation. And this is a self-evaluation of how your pharmacy is actually doing. And really the goal here today is not really the ending grade, but hopefully it will provide you with some areas that you might need to look at a little closer in your pharmacy. So with that said, what do we, I guess I put down some disclaimers here. This is for amusement purposes only. So we are going to have fun. Don't get too hung up on what your ending scores are. And I guess it acts kind of like a standardized test. So standardized tests are good for the masses, but maybe not always good for everyone. Everyone has a unique perspective. So if you're doing things kind of differently, maybe some of these metrics don't fit exactly. We'll deal with that. That's okay. Every store is unique. I make some generalizations here. If you're doing a lot of compounding, or if you're a big LTC, your numbers will tend to be higher. If you're doing a lot of specialty, your numbers may tend to be a little lower. So just keep that in mind. And in the end, after we go through these 10 metrics, you'll see, and I think that some of these metrics uncover the same issue. They can point to an underlying issue just from different perspectives. And my final point is here, not all these metrics are created the same. I'm an accountant. I love metric number 9. So we'll get to that one when we get there. As far as what you'll need, and you may not have it available right now, but you can certainly go back and get them, is you'll need financial statements to do this. To look at metrics, you need numbers. And so if you have your year-end 2020 numbers, you would need a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement. If you have an interim period, so if you have 6 months worth, there are some calculations where you'll have to do an annualization just to kind of get a number that's straight. And then also we have one metric is tied to equip. So if you're asking me right now, what is equip? Well, you're probably not going to score too well on that one, is my guess. But having access to that will just be one of the metrics. And simply to score along at home, a calculator, piece of notebook paper, just to kind of write down your answers, and we'll go from there. So here are my top 10 metrics for your pharmacy. And this is what I would write down on your notepad. I would just keep a track of the 10 and then the number of points that you earn on each. So what we're going to do is we're going to earn a point or multiple points on each of these 10 metrics, add them up and get a total. And then based on your total, we'll give you a grade. Sounds good? Let's get started. Now I'm going to start it off really easy, simple calculation. Number 1 metric, RX inventory turnover. So this here is basically just your annual cost of goods sold divided by your value of your RX inventory. Most of you should know this or have a pretty good idea of what this number is. A lot of people, for cost of goods sold, they'll actually use cost of goods purchased. So if that's all you have is purchases, as long as you didn't increase your inventory by a great amount, you can substitute a purchase in here. If you don't have an annual cost of goods sold number available, let's say you have a 6-month number, then just multiply it by 2 and get an annual number, estimate to give a number here. As far as this metric is concerned, Here's how we're going to score this one. First off, why is inventory turnover important? It's a primary measure of your efficiency in the pharmacy. It's going to be a big measure of your liquidity because that's where cash goes to hide. It goes to hide on your shelves, and it also goes to hide in your receivables. But inventory is primarily the number one cost in your pharmacy. So when we look at your inventory turnover, and when you calculate that ratio, if yours is less than 7, that's really not that great. So that's where we're going to assign these points. You're going to assign yourself 1 point to this first metric. Where I'd ideally like you to be is over 13. So over 13, 12 to 13. And when you think about it, in Rx inventory turnover of 12 means that you're turning that inventory over once per month. So when you look at your shelves, you shouldn't have more than 1 month worth of inventory out there. I mean, you can order things and get them tomorrow. So why do you have more than that on your shelves? So I can tell you over my years of working in the pharmacy business, pharmacists have done pretty well at improving this number, the Rx inventory turnover. And you know why? Because they had to. Because liquidity gets tight, and where's the first place they're turning to improve their liquidity? It's to get this number down. But if you're still with an Rx inventory turnover in the single digits, there's room for improvement. And when you improve this number, you'll improve your cash in the bank. All right, let's move on to the second metric. The second metric is revenue growth. Another very simple calculation. Take your last year's revenue, so 2020 revenues, subtract it from 2019, and divide by your beginning revenue, which would be 2019, or whatever period you choose to compare it. And this is just a simple measure of, am I growing or am I shrinking? And as far as perspective of grading this, I'm pretty liberal on these points here. I'll tell you. If you're growing your pharmacy by over 6%, I'm going to let you take 5 points here, the maximum. So the goal here is that you're not shrinking. You know, there is inflation, things are going up, wages are going up, brand prices are going up. Now, maybe not all the generic prices are going up, but the fact of the matter is you need to grow. If you want to improve the valuation of your store, any potential buyer is going to want to see growth, and growth is good. You know, this is a good metric just to kind of look at the the top lines revenues and compare them and say, which direction am I going in? So here you can see the percentages. I'm actually being pretty honest, giving you a point if you're not growing. So I'm very liberal in that grading here. So do your calculation and see where you fall on that. Our third metric is payroll expense ratio. Very important ratio for all pharmacies. I mentioned that inventory is the number one area where cash goes. Well, the second most material place is payroll. Payroll is something you really have to manage in a pharmacy. And so what we're shooting for here on this calculation is, when you look at your profit and loss statement, is how much are you paying your employees on their wages, plus their payroll taxes, and any benefits that you're providing. So if you're providing health care benefits or 401k benefits, you got to add those in as to your payroll. Now, as far as if you're an owner-operator, I would include your wages as an officer based on the fact that if you are working in the pharmacy. So if you're working in the pharmacy as a pharmacist, I would include your pay in that employee wage number. Now, if you're paying yourself an exorbitant wage, I would exclude the amount that exceeds the market rate. So let's say, for example, you're paying yourself $300,000 to be a pharmacist. On this calculation, I would probably take $120,000 of that and include it in employee wages. The rest of it, I would exclude. That really is distributions to you. It's just the manner that you're taking your excess pay. So I would exclude any excess pay or excess benefits that you provide yourself as an owner. We're going to calculate that. this number, and we're going to take all the costs and divide it by your annual revenue to get a percentage. And when we look at your payroll expense ratio, ideally, I want to see you under 13%. 12% is even better. I think the NCPA average is somewhere around 12 to 13%. And so this is a real indicator of what we're going to see later on on these metrics. Profitability. You really have to be lean and mean with your payroll numbers. And someone was asking me, hey, John, when should I add a tech? And I go back to revenues and I say, when you take your revenues, increase in revenues, I would divide that by 0.13, and that would give you kind of the idea how much money you can spend on a new employee. It's a simple ratio. So for instance, if you're going to increase your revenues by 1 million over a year, that would tell me that, yeah, you probably can handle about 130,000, 125,000 of additional payroll. So that's the kind of thinking you have to put into it when you have this ratio, and you can use it with actual decisions on your labor size. Now, what I love on this ratio is usually the bigger stores. So when your revenues are above 7, 8, 10, 20 million, it's easier to get your payroll ratio down lower. You have more economies of scale. So that's just one of the things that works in your favor when you're a bigger store. When you're a small store and you only have revenues of 2 million, boy, it's a lot harder to spread around 250,000 of potential payroll and still be in this ratio. So just some things to keep there. So again, we want you to be under 12 to score the maximum on this one. All right, this next metric, number 4. All right, we're going to have a little more mathematics involved here, but follow me on this one. And I think it's a really important metric, days cash on hand. This is a metric that measures how much breathing room do you have. You know, if you're checking your bank account 3 or 4 times a day, you know if you're sweating out your next wholesale bill on the 15th or the 10th of the month, how much breathing room do you have in the way of cash? So to calculate this, what we do here in this first step is kind of get an idea of how much cash are you spending on the average day. So if we look at the whole year, we would take a look at your annual cost of goods sold. So add up all that you spend on your drugs, and then add up all your operating expenses. So that would be all your payroll and all of your other out-of-pocket expenses. You can exclude depreciation and amortization. So that gives you an idea when you add all that up, all those costs, and if you divide them by 365, it gives you a pretty good average of what you spend on any given day. So when we have that average daily spend, we're gonna use that as the denominator with the cash amount as the numerator. So if you're spending $10,000 a day and you have $100,000 in the bank, that would tell me you have 10 days of cash on hand. And so that's what we're trying to get at. How much, if the cash stopped today, how long would you last? I had a guy that I was working with a couple of years ago, and he had financial problems. And he asked me, hey, John, how much cash do I have on hand? I said, well, you basically have enough until about 3 o'clock this afternoon. He had about 2 hours worth of cash on hand. So I'll tell you, things didn't end well for him. So unfortunately. So on this day's cash on hand, when I measure, what's a good number, I'd love for you to have at least 15 days of cash on hand. What's 15 days? 15 days is basically enough money in the bank to pay your next semi-monthly wholesale bill, probably pay your next payroll, and a good chunk of your other operating expenses. Sounds like in some cases that's a lot of money, 15 days, but really when you get down to it, 2 weeks is not a lot of time. So to get your maximum 5 points on this metric, I'd love to see you have 30 days of cash. So, I know that sounds for many of you to be a high bar, but, I want you to meet that high bar. So 30 days of cash on hand at any given time. And what I would say to that secondarily is not on hand, but quick access to another 30 days of cash. So if you said, John, I have 30 days of cash on hand, I would love for you to have a line of credit available at any given time for another 30 days. And that's just for the rainy day. I don't want you to necessarily use it, but in the best case scenario, if you have that type of liquidity, you can get through many of life's crises. We saw last year with the pandemic that things can dry up very quickly. I used to think that having 6 rolls of toilet paper was a good result. Now I figured kind of after last year, now I think I have 60 rolls of toilet paper around. So crises when they occur, that's when cash really becomes important. So I hope this measure is something that you can keep handy and something you can achieve and talk to your accountant or banker about as far as getting a better number. Number 5, again, we're getting into a little heavier calculations, but really not too bad. This is your non-Rx gross profit percentage. So how much of your gross profits are coming from sources that are non-third-party contract insurance? And so what I have on this calculation is your gross profits from the OTC, services, and other cash business as a percent of your total gross profit. And I make a point here, if you don't have an OTC cost of goods sold, but you do have OTC sales, then what you probably can do is multiply your OTC sales percentage by 2 to give you that percent. So if 5% of your sales are OTC, then probably 10% or more of your gross profits are coming from OTC. Why is this so important? The insurance companies are setting our revenues. And you know what's happened over the past 5 years. I've seen it. Those reimbursements are shrinking. It's getting harder and harder to make ends meet if we're just solely relying on insurance companies. They're taking out more and more in DIR fees. I've seen that. Oh, it's crazy. It's robbery. It's a matter of how much they're going to rob you, not if they're going to rob you. So we need to take action into our own hands. What are the things that we can do to generate non-Rx cash? Can we sell more prescription for cash? Can we focus on certain OTC line items that are really beneficial for our patients? CBD? Can we do point of care testing? Can we do COVID testing for cash? One of the other things that really has turned into cash is COVID vaccine. I mean, there's no cost of goods sold on a COVID vaccine. I hope all of you are maximizing this once in a lifetime opportunity to take the government's money. They're passing out money like crazy these past couple of years. You might as well grab your share. So in this metric, I really would love to have you get over 20% of your gross profits from non-insurance related areas. This will just give you some diversification. It'll give you that ability to build your business without reliance on the risk of the third party and what they decide to do. So look at these numbers and look at the points and give yourself the appropriate point. As we go on to our metrics, number 6, MedSync percentage. How much percentage of your prescriptions are being run through a MedSync program? When I first got started in pharmacy, this is one of the first things I learned, and I've given this speech so many times, and I really don't do a great job. I think you've probably heard other people talk about it who are experts on why MedSync. I just do it from the accounting perspective as far as if you do MedSync, things are going to be much more efficient with regard to your labor, with regard to your delivery, with regard to patient adherence. There's just so many reasons why MedSync is important. So in this case, I want you to give an honest assessment of where are you with MedSync? And ideally on MedSync, I'd love you to be over 45% of being delivered on a MedSync, and I'm setting the bar low. I can tell you, I'm being easy on you because I know other speakers who will tell you 55 and higher. So, but if you're at 45, I'm going to give you full credit on this one. I'm an easy teacher on this one. Some of the other metrics you maybe didn't fare so well. So, but here, if you've got no MedSync program, I don't know what you're doing. Come on, get with the program and get your numbers up. You know, there's a lot of good tools. Everybody has a kind of a different way of doing it, and that's fine. I don't endorse any method. I just want you to do it. It's good for you. It's good for your patients. So there are the rates for MedSync percentage. Get yourself up over 50%. Let's move on to number 7, the turkey ratio. Now we're having a little more fun here on the climb. Turkey ratio. I call a turkey a bad employee. Bad employees are turkeys. Good employees, I call them eagles. So this here, I want you to take a real hard self-assessment, and really it should be a very quick assessment. You know when you walk around your pharmacy who the turkeys are. This doesn't have to be a hard, fast ratio. You pretty much know who really fits in and who's dragging you down. And this is one of those ratios where when you have a turkey, it can be the hardest, one of the hardest things to correct. It really can be because you're dealing with, in many cases, employees that might have been around a long time, people that you've known a long time, but for whatever reason, they're bringing your business down. They're not a positive impact. And in almost all of these cases, they're impacting everyone else. They're impacting your eagles, whether or not you know it or not. You know, in these cases where you have a turkey, I can tell you where an owner has addressed a turkey issue, they've never regretted it. It's been a hard address, but the aftermath is always sunny. So to find out your turkey, you shouldn't have more than 10% of your employees that are turkeys. Really, this is something. So when I look at turkey ratios, if you've got more than 25% of your staff that are turkeys, then this is probably something you're going to need to get to right away. I like to see under 10%. Really, I like to see 0. You know, but the labor market is tight. We have certain parts of the country where you really probably can't find anybody right now, or you know, for a reasonable rate. So you may be putting up with more turkeys than you need be. But I don't want you to just put this one aside and say, I'll deal with it later, or it'll kind of correct itself. I think action on this one always pays off. So you know, you need eagles, and eagles will take you where you want to go. Eagles will help you correct your other 9 ratios. When we go on to number 8, your average PDC score on EQIP. So this is what I mentioned earlier. EQIP is a site that will tell you how you are doing. These are Medicare patients. How are you doing on adherence? Why is this important? Because DIR fees and all the plans, what are the things that they look at for an attractive pharmacy? The number one thing they're going to look at is, are you keeping your patients adherent? So the 3 main scores on EQIP that you can influence on a daily basis are the cholesterol PDC, the diabetes PDC, and the RASA PDC. And each of these measures what percent of your patients are adherent, and it's pass or fail. For a patient to be adherent, they have to get their drugs 80% of the days covered. So simple mathematics. If the year has 360 days, 365 days, excuse me, 80% of those days, your patient, if they get their drug, they're adherent. If they're under 80%, they're not adherent. So there's no partial credit on this one. You want to get your people all over that 80% threshold. So when they're over that 80% threshold, it counts as a positive number, and it increases your PDC score. So these 3 PDC scores, what I would do is just take all 3 of them, add them up, get an average. And so when we look at those from a perspective of an average, I want you to be over 93%. And the EQIP website will show you your state's average. And where I'm coming from in Maryland, Virginia, my state averages are somewhere around 91, 92%. So I'm really, when I say 93%, that's really not much better than just than state average. Ideally, you want to be in the top 20%. Now, the downside here is if all you go out and improve your EQIP scores, which I hope you do, the averages will go up. The state averages will go up. But hey, that's just the way it is. So, but if you're sitting here and you have a PDC score of less than 80%, or you're in the low 80s, that's just not good. You have way too many patients that are not adherent. And with that said, on the opposite side, you're not going to get 100%. Every non-adherent patient has a story, and your job is to go out and figure out what that story is and solve that story the best you can. Some of them you're not going to solve, but some of them you are. So they're going to have a reason why they're not picking up their meds. It's either side effects, they can't afford the copay, they can't get to the store, they're forgetful. So you got to kind of wade through those things and figure out which ones you can get over that 80% number. And get your numbers up, because when your numbers are up, the plans are going to look more favorably on your store. I have a little comment here. If you don't have a lot of Medicare and you really don't have a lot of EQIP, just give yourself 5 points, because that's one less headache you got to worry about. You don't have to worry about the DIR fee. So don't scrutinize yourself too much here. But most of us have EQIP scores. That's just the way it is. So I want you to pay attention to that. You should be looking at that monthly. The numbers are on some kind of delay, but I do want you to look at that. It is important. So as we move on, I want to get on to number 9. This is my favorite one. I'm an accountant. What can I say? I mean, seriously. EBITDA percentage. This is what percent of your total revenues are you keeping at the end of the day? This is what it's all about. So if you sit here and say, John, I have a great EBITDA percentage, then maybe you get an A automatically. Okay. But quite often what I see is if you have a great EBITDA percentage, but you still have some low scores in these other areas that you have low scores will eventually creep up on you, and they will eat on your EBITDA percentage. So as much as this number might be your final grade in some tests, you do kind of have to keep watch on the other 9 metrics to keep this number up. So if you're not familiar with EBITDA, what I would just do is take your bottom line net income number, and I would add back interest, depreciation, amortization, and any excess expenses that you attribute to yourself as an owner that you're employing your son or your daughter for excess, or you're taking extra money out. Kind of add all that back and kind of get what your real earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation is, and then divide that by your total revenue to get a percentage. So when I look at EBITDA percentage, when I do a financial review, I always start with 5%. I want my owners to get a 5%. So when we talk about how are we going to get to 5%, I'll look at your gross margin, I'll look at your payroll expenses, I'll look at your other operating expenses, and then I'll look at what's the bottom line EBITDA. And if your EBITDA is not 5% or more, then I need to go back to one of those other measures and say, which one of these measures we need to change so that the EBITDA percentage goes up. So is my gross profit too low? Is my labor too high? Are my other operating expenses too high? So the EBITDA is the bottom line. So it's the bottom of that calculation. So when you have problems, you need to go back and find out what the root problems are. On this metric, I'll let you get more than 5 points. So if you have an EBITDA percentage that's more than 8%, give yourself extra points. These extra points and round them up. So like I said, this is my favorite metric. Take all the points that you can earn here. If you're under 2%, and especially if you're under 0, then you're doing a lot of work and you're not showing anything left over. So it begs the question of what needs to happen to get this number into the positive area. When I look at EBITDA, the owner, as an owner, you get paid last. Whatever's left over, this is what's left over for you. So this really is the most important number that you're going to see at the end of the day. And if someone's going to buy your store, this is usually how they're going to value your store. They're going to take your EBITDA and they're going to multiply it by some type of other multiplier, usually 3 or some other number, to give you a valuation. They're looking at how much they can make, a potential buyer, how much they can make on this. If I buy your store, what's in it for me? So EBITDA. All right, we are to metric number 10. Now, there were a lot of honorable mentions with regard to 10 metrics, but being an accountant, I had to put this one in here. This is my own personal bias. And this is simple. How often do you get and review your store's financial statements? Why do I say this? How can you possibly improve your metrics if you don't see them? You got to have a starting point, and then you got to have interim measurement points to see where you're going. It drives me crazy when I'm working with people and they say, I look at my numbers once a year. I get them in September for the previous year. How can I act on numbers that are that old? How can I drive change on numbers that are stale? So you need to have numbers that are done more frequently. And so when I grade you on this metric, I want you to get monthly numbers. Now, it's okay if you get quarterly numbers. And one thing I'll say about these numbers is you don't have to have perfect numbers. I recognize that for tax purposes, you're kind of dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's and trying to make your numbers perfect at year end for tax purposes. During the year, you don't need to have perfect numbers. You need to have numbers that you can make judgments upon and that are somewhat consistent. They're done on the same basis, and you can get a ballpark. So you know what your inventory ballpark is every month. You know what your cash is. You know what your sales are each month. So pull together those numbers. You know what your payroll expenses are each month. Pull those numbers together on a more frequent basis. Get yourself a framework and look at those numbers. And then go back and recalculate some of these metrics and figure out, am I going in the right direction or am I going in the wrong direction? You need to see what's happening. So this metric, a lot of people overlook this, but as an accountant, I don't. So there you have it, 10 metrics that kind of cross a lot of different things. But with these metrics, what I would want you to do now is kind of go through your scorecard. If you were able to do it with us along, that's great. If you have to go back and review, then do that and give you a little extra time to pull together metrics and to get the numbers together. Tally up your scorecard on a piece of paper, give yourself some points. And when you take and you have this final scorecard, I want you to take a look at that column on the right, the points, and just kind of take a look. Where are your strengths and where are your weaknesses? If you get anything out of this this speech, I want you to see, where are the areas where I'm getting 5s or more? Where are the areas where I have a 2 or 3? Because the goal of spending your time, your valuable time watching this presentation is to hopefully to come out of here and say, you know what, number 6 or number 4 or number 2, I didn't score that well. And so I need to come up with a plan of how I'm going to improve that metric. And I would say, take it one metric at a time and don't overwhelm yourself. As a coach, what I would tell you to do is let's come up with some really definitive action plan items, tasks that we can identify that would help us improve a metric. Let's set a deadline. Let's assign those specific tasks to specific people. Let's review those tasks when they get accomplished. And then at some time frame in the future, let's remeasure and see if we're making progress. So that's really the goal of this. Now, when you add up all of your numbers and you get your tally, just for fun, give yourself a grade. Hopefully you're all in that A area. But I know in my household, you get a B, you're out of trouble. So it's in that C and D area that we got to have a little talk. So hopefully you have some fun. Don't fret if one category throws you off, or you say, hey, John, that category really doesn't fit my store as well. That's okay. Give yourself an appropriate grade. We're having some fun. So that is my presentation. What I would love to do now is bounce it back to Brad, who is, I'm sure he's aligned with me on measuring things. So Brad, are you there?
Hey, John. Yeah, I'm here. Great presentation. Thank you so much. I jotted a whole slew of things down here. Actually, one of the ones, the turkeys, I had a quick story when I first started RMS. So we just turned 23. And I lost a great employee, and he said to me, he said, this other employee, I've told you that this person is not, is a drain on us, and I gave you plenty of opportunity to fix this, and you just didn't do it. And you have you have a credibility problem, and I'm leaving. I'm gone. I've taken another job, and I'm so happy that happened early in my career, because as you pointed out, these people have an impact on everybody else too.
Yeah.
And so as a business owner, you have a responsibility to your team, to your patients, your customers. You have a responsibility to take care of this, and it is hard. That was firing somebody under any circumstances, one of the hardest things that you can do as an owner. But it's a responsibility. So
it's a responsibility as an owner, and and when it's over, I've never had, like I said, anyone ever say that was a bad idea. It always works out for the best, and for the person that moves on, it's usually for the best too, because it really wasn't a fit for them. It's not fair for them to be in a role that doesn't suit their skill set. So it's just not, some people aren't cut out for daily pharmacy work, and that's okay. It's okay. They're
right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely right. But it really is a credibility thing, and I think that was a really good lesson early in my career.
Mm-hmm.
So like you, I'm not an accountant, but I am a numbers guy, and during Climb, I've talked about the importance of looking at numbers and metrics on a regular basis. And this is just, I've never seen this presentation before, anything like it. And wow, great metrics. I'm actually gonna run this on us and just see where
you stack up. Yeah, and then we'll see how that works. Yeah,
right. I might have to throw out a couple, but I think that the thing that's important there is something else that we teach here to our customers is, don't get overwhelmed with numbers and things. You've given 10. Look at, then pick one, pick something you're a 1 or a 2 or a 3, and identify that, and then figure out how to fix it. And sometimes you need help from somebody to fix it. Go to expertise, go to colleagues in, pharmacists, other pharmacy owners that get advice. I mean, there's lots of resources once you identify a problem area. So I would say to people, take one step at a time. Don't be overwhelmed.
I'll tell you, this industry amazes me because of the willingness of the people in the industry to share best practices and help each other. At the end of the day, I have friends that say, you have different pharmacies. Aren't they really competing against each other? Well, maybe, but they're geographically far apart, where I've seen almost everyone free to give advice to each other and help each other's out. There's a lot of resources in our industry, a lot of ways that you can get coached, a lot of continuing education so that you can improve your business. And so just use this as one of those metrics or one of those opportunities to improve your business. And if we can just, like, as you mentioned, I mentioned, if you can just take away one thing that you can action upon and be specific and get help and improve, then it's worth your time today. So that's really worth it.
No, absolutely. And I agree with you. I mean, it amazes me. I tell my friends about this, what this industry is like and why am I so passionate about it. And it is that people share and try to make each other better. And I think that's really very unique. So one of the things that definitely caught my attention, because it's something that we talk about in Climb pretty frequently, it's something we talk about with our customers. And it resonates with all business owners, is cash flow. I mean, maybe it doesn't resonate with, with Jeff Bezos anymore, but I can tell you there's probably a point in Amazon's time where cash flow was a problem. And it is something that resonates with people. And one of the, we, of course, as a POS vendor, we're focused on the front end of the business. And I see so many people that don't look at reports for the front end to make decisions on what they should be carrying, what amount of inventory they should be carrying. NCPA shows that for front end, the average turns on a front end is 4, right? That was just...
I don't believe that number as the day is long. I tell you, I've looked at hundreds of financial statements for pharmacies, and if you're at 2 times turnover on the front end, you're doing well. So I don't know where they're getting that 4.
That 4.
Maybe these stores are ones a couple hundred I haven't seen, but it's very difficult. So you bring up a good point. There's so much cash sitting on the shelves out there when it's only turning 1 or 2 times per year. That's a lot of dead weight, and it really does drag down liquidity for the store. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Any way to measure it or track it or figure out what portions of the OTC are selling. So you may have $50,000 worth of OTC, but only 5,000 of it is really turning. Right. So you need to know what's turning. The other 45,000 may just be dead weight that you're selling at maybe Christmas time if you're lucky, and then you're marking it down in April because it was left over from the previous holiday season. So
right. Well, and I think that's the thing that I actually wrote an article that'll be in America's Pharmacist in October. It's a CE credit on managing the front end, and one of the things that I was able to do is take some real data from one of our pharmacies and show they break down to 6 different departments, and OTC is one of them, and gift was another, and DME was another, and HBA, and anyway, but when you sorted the search or the report by gross profit dollars, OTC was the top, and gift was 3rd, and DME was 4th, and I don't remember what was 5th, but anyway, but then when you sorted it by gross profit return on investment, OTC dropped to 2nd from the bottom, and it was only 1.2 but DME jumped to the top. What does all that mean? What it means, and gift, which was giving 2nd to the most profit to the bottom line, was only was a GIPROI of 0.6, and so can you explain real quick what I'm talking about to customers, what that actually means?
What it means is how hard is your money working? So let's just take it, if you look at RX inventory. If you're turning it 12 times per year, let's say you put $100,000 in RX inventory, and each month you make a 20%, let's just say 10%. Let's just say 10% return on that money every month, because it's turning the entire. So you make a 10%, you sell it 12 times. That same $100,000 over the course of the year has generated you $120,000 of profit, versus OTC, which maybe has a 50% markup. So let's say you have $100,000 out there, but you're only turning it 1 time a year. That same 100,000 is only making you $50,000. And I'm being generous on these numbers, but
sure.
So it's the churn. So that same dollar invested, because it's not churning, even though the margin is technically higher at this time of sale, not giving you as much money over the course of the year. That has an inefficient use of your cash. You could use that cash elsewhere to generate more money, more velocity.
There you go. And that's, I think, such an important piece that people don't recognize. When you looked at the gift, even though it was generating the 2nd highest profit in their case, it was turning 0.6 times. So they had
not even
one.
And
what
time.
That meant is, hey, I've got way too much money tied up in the inventory here.
Yeah.
That's complete drain on my cash flow. Doesn't mean you should get rid of gift department. Just means you need to look at the department and reduce the inventory of the things that don't sell or don't turn.
Yeah.
Right. not necessarily get rid of the entire department. So
I gotcha. I believe
and
it.
again, like in that, and I'm really going to end with this, but it was just, this is again a process of looking at the big picture, all of your departments, and then which ones are performing well, which ones are not, drilling down to the ones that are not, and making adjustments.
Mhm.
So it's taking the same approach that you took with this overall metric and just applying it to a small piece of the store, which is where our focus, of course, is as a POS vendor. So,
Yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much. This has been
Brad,
terrific.
it's a lot of fun. I hope I could spread some education to, I love the pharmacy community, and I really appreciate the opportunity that you, Karen, Chelsea, and everyone at your organization gave me today to give my spiel, and I had a lot of fun putting it together. So
yeah, great. I loved it too, and I look forward to people doing it, and then we're hearing positive feedback. So, so thanks again, and we hope to have you back at some time in the future.
I look forward to it. Talk to you soon. All right.
Yep. Take care.
Bye now. Yep.
How do you become a more profitable pharmacy? The RMS Boost training program uses your data, merchandising tips, and best practices to help you achieve your profitability goals. Experience RMS Boost.
Well, thank you for joining us today. As always, we'll be sending out a Climb newsletter following today's presentation. This will include a brief survey as well. Please take a minute to share your thoughts. We would love to hear your feedback. Also, as a reminder, please share the event with your friends, colleagues, coworkers. Feel free to share the videos and share the podcast there as well. We love having new people join us. So our After Climb today, again, is going to be a deep dive into customer loyalty, hosted as usual by Brad. But before we get to that, we have some exciting news to share.
Absolutely. As we mentioned earlier, our October broadcast is going to mark a year of Climb. And so, one, I want to personally thank all of you who've been attending. We really do appreciate that, and we appreciate you sharing and helping us grow. So we have a whole big plan for Climb for next month, but I want to announce two really special guests. So first of all, we have Will Bowen. Will is a best-selling author and founder of the Complaint-Free Movement. Many of you have probably heard of this. His 21-day complaint-free challenge has been shared and recommended by Oprah, Maya Angelou, Dr. Oz, the Wall Street Journal, NPR, and many, many more. So this is a session you're not going to want to miss. On top of that, for those of you who are sports enthusiasts, I have a special announcement. We're going to have with us Colin Coward. Colin is a radio phenomenon in the sports world. He worked at ESPN for 7 years and currently is at Fox Radio hosting The Herd. I know many of you know who he is. Colin is also a very personal, close friend. We grew up together. We've known each other our entire lives. And so I'm excited to bring Colin on. He and I are going to talk motivation, and we're just going to have fun. That's one you're not going to want to miss. It's one I'm definitely not going to want to miss. It's one my family's definitely not going to want to miss. So be there for that for sure. Yeah, and that's those are my two exciting guests for next time. Back to you, Brandon.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So the date for our next event will be October 14th, and we'll be kicking this special broadcast off at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. There will be a live Q&A with Will Bowen and some other great opportunities for everyone who tunes in live. So we definitely hope to see you there.
Hey, so are you going to bring back Bebop? I think Bebop needs to be in the Climb of the year.
You know, we'll see how Bebop's doing. She has been asking for a little bit more screen time, but we're still in negotiations with her paycheck and royalties. So
very good.
More to come.
Well, and for those of you who don't know what the heck we're talking about right now, Bebop is Brandon's new puppy, and she made a guest appearance in last month's Climb. So anyway, hopefully we'll see her in October too. Okay, thanks again for all of you for joining us today. We're excited to be back next month, and we hope that you're all there for the October Climb, our big event. Please tell everybody about it, and thanks again. And in a few moments, I'll be back to do After Climb and customer loyalty. Cheers, everybody. Have a great day. Hey, welcome to After Climb. Today I'm going to do a deep dive into our customer loyalty application and how it works. Some really great stuff. Before I get into the demo though, I want to talk about just briefly about customer loyalty. To create a great customer loyalty program is really about marketing. You've got to create excitement. You've got to get people interested. Lots of signage, lots of emails, give people a reason to be excited about coming back into your store. So it really is important to do that. We can do some really cool things though to help you create that excitement, and that's what I'm going to get into right now. So let me share my screen. And I'm also going to turn off my my video. And now we got full screen real estate. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to go over to the Associates tab and go into loyalty levels is where I want to start. So in my system, I've created loyalty levels. You don't have to do this, but I think it's a good idea. So I've got 4. And then when I get, everybody starts at bronze. And then when they reach the 1,000 points, they automatically move to silver and so forth and so on. And that's totally automated. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to look at anything. That just happens behind the scenes, real time. So once you have these set up, there's some cool things, cool features that you can do, promotional events and things of that nature based on level. And so I'm going to show you a little bit about that in a moment. Okay, so let's get right into loyalty parameters. So I'm not going to go through every single one of the parameters. If you need help on those, you can click F1 Help. It'll take you right to the loyalty parameters page, and it explains every single one of these parameters. But I do want to talk about some of the basics. First of all, the calculation method. So the calculation method is either points per dollar or points per item. And typically, most loyalty programs are based on points per dollar. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way, but that's the most common way. And then I've got my system set up so that I get 1 point for every dollar I spend. And you can see that you can obviously change that. You can be 1 point for every $5 or however you want to do it. But you also control the minimum purchase. So you can say that it has to be, a minimum of $1 before there's any points. And then you can determine how you want to round, up, down, proportional. And then you can also decide whether or not you want to include promotional events. I've got mine set up so that even promo events, they're getting points, but you don't have to do that. This free items, that only comes into play if you decide to use points per item, and then this would be available to you. But we're doing points per dollar. Okay, and then the redemption rate. So I'm saying that if I redeem 100 points, I get $1 in return. And then I'm also saying that I have to redeem those points in multiples of the minimum. So the multiples of 100. And so if I have 232 points, I can only redeem 200 points or $2 at a given moment in time. Okay, and I don't need to go through all of them, but here I would make a suggestion prompting for the loyalty card at the register. I think is a really good idea when you get started. When you're starting out with your program, that's something that I think you really want to do because it's new to everybody. So you want to get your clerks familiar with it. At some point down the road, when everybody's familiar, you may be able to just turn this off. It is one extra keystroke at the till. So at some point, you may wish to just turn that off. Now, there's a feature here called Auto Display Points Redemption Screen. I'm not going to do that to start with. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. So the rest of this is just stuff that for the starting point here, we don't really need to talk about, but I will point this one out, print gift certificate at till. This is a feature we added where you can actually, at the end of the transaction, you can print a gift certificate for a return visit. And so we'll show that. And I've said that the maximum in any transaction that you can print that gift certificate is $10. So you can change that as you'd like. And then this point accumulator. This does allow you to limit your liability. So if a person, you can say they can't get more than 10,000 points or 30,000 points or whatever you feel, because remember, this is a liability, right? You have this liability because this is real money actually that they can redeem at some point. And then finally, the loyalty opt-in bonuses. This is something that I think is a good idea, where if they provide you their email address, you can give them 50 bonus points. Now, you can do it without the email address as well, but I really like the idea of giving them the extra points if they give you the email. And you can set that to whatever. It could be 500 points, whatever you want. But that email is what's valuable to you, right? Because you want to be able to market to them via email, and you can use something like MailChimp or Constant Contact to do that, because we can export your loyalty members to, that you can then import into those other email campaign type applications. Okay, so let me show you a couple of other things, and then I'll show you how this is done at the till. So one of the things we have here is called exceptions. Exceptions can be both positive and negative. So for instance, some pharmacies don't allow for loyalty points on prescriptions. So if I want to do that, I could come to department and click add, and I could put in my prescription department, which is 80, and I'll show you that right here. So there's my prescription department. And I can say minus 100%, click add. And now if I scan prescriptions at the register, it's not going to give you any points for that. Okay. You also have the ability to do additional. You could do something completely the opposite, where you're doubling points. Or you're giving a higher percentage of points for a specific department or category or fine line, even a specific item, or you can do things like with price matrix for like in senior pricing. Maybe you're giving some extra points for senior pricing. You also could do for method of payments. I know of a customer that doesn't give points for people that charge to their AR account. I'm not saying that's the best practice, but these are just ideas. Okay, so let's go over here. Before I get to reports, let's go to gift certificates. So when you create a gift certificate, it will be listed here, and then if it's been scanned and redeemed at the till, it will show that. So all the gift certificates are serialized, so you can't reuse a gift certificate. So if somebody makes multiple copies of the same gift certificate, doesn't do them any good, because as soon as it's scanned, it's no longer valid. So we have 2 that are open here, and we can print them or reprint them. Okay, so prior to this, I went ahead and printed one that I'm going to use to scan at the register, so we'll see that in a moment. Now, how do they get created? So they get created over here in the reports, and there's a lot of great reports in here showing you your top customers and so forth. I'm not going to go through all the reports. You can see you've also have reports showing their birthdays and anniversaries. You can do all the loyal customers, and this would be one that you would actually, the loyalty customer list would be something that you use to export out to be able to import into MailChimp or Constant Contact or something like that. But what I do want to show you is this particular thing here. So viewing and issuing gift certificates. So we're going to click next. And when we do this, I always recommend that you click view only, no updates. Now you can set whatever you want to be the multiple gift certificate multiples of $10 in this case. If you want to increase that to 20 or 40 or whatever, you can do that. And then it'll look for the people that qualify to get that large of a gift certificate. I'm going to leave mine at 10 just to show you how this works. So view only, no updates is just going to give you the report. Then you can come back and decide what to do next. So here we go. And it's showing that it's only going to give us one gift certificate of $10 for Pauline Anthony if we do this. Okay, now I can back this off, and let's do this again, but let's see if we can get more people by just doing $5. How many people will qualify? And so we have some extra people that are going to qualify if I want to go with $5. So now I'll go ahead and say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and perform updates as requested. And then it comes up with, do you want to deduct points? So I would say typically, yes, you do want to deduct points. And then the second question is, do you want to recalculate the current level? my thinking and the best practice of this is no, because if you've got somebody that's at the platinum level, you want them to stay at the platinum level. You want to know that this is one of my best customers, regardless of the fact that they've redeemed points. So now some people one consideration you could do is at the end of every year, you could do this and then say yes to this and have it recalculate their current level, so that that the loyalty calculation, the level calculation is based on an annual basis. So maybe you started your program, let's say you started your program on September 1st of this year. So on September 1st of next year, you might go ahead and recalculate the current level. I wouldn't do that myself, but that's just something that you can do. I definitely wouldn't do it every time you redeem certificates though. So in this case, we'll go ahead and do next. It's generating the points. And then I'm going to click out of here. And now if we go to give certificates, oops, one sec, there we go. Then we go to give certificates and we'll see that these give certificates got added to the end of this list. And so now these people all have these give certificates available. Okay. I want to point out just one other piece here, loyalty letters. Loyalty letters do give you the ability to create a letter that can be either mailed out or emailed out. You simply pull fields in that you want, where you want them, and then type away with what you want. A common one for this would be welcoming them to the loyalty program. So that's something that you could consider doing. You could also do it, that it goes out with mailed out certificates, but mailing is expensive, right? So the best option, if you have emails for your loyalty customers, then you see here that when you print, you can also email. So it's print or email, and so you could just be emailing out these certificates that they can print on their own instead of mailing. So that's the best option, of course, if you can do that. Now, there is something called variable loyalty, and I'm not using variable loyalty, but let me tell you the concept. The concept is that once they reach a certain point level, then you can change the number of points they get per dollar. So you can either go up or down. So maybe you have somebody get to the platinum level and now you want to reward them with even more points for everything that they do. So that's what this is doing. Redemption is kind of the same thing. You can change the value. So right now I'm saying they get, for every 100 points, they get $1. You could change that so that once at 5,000 points, they get, instead of $50, they get $60, that kind of thing. So we're not using it, but that's what that is all about. Okay, so let's go ahead and just do a transaction so that you can see what that's like. And then I'm going to show you something else that's pretty cool. So we'll get out of here, go into the till, and let's just do our first transaction. Okay, so if you look at the bottom of the screen right now, we don't have a customer associated, but what this is telling us that there's zero, whoever this is, which is has 0 points, and they're going to get 29 points in this transaction, and of that 29.0 are bonus points. So I've got the system, if you remember, set up so that it'll prompt. So if I hit cash, it's going to prompt and ask, and I called it the Advantage program. You can call it whatever you'd like. We ask the customer if they're a member. They say, yes, I don't have my card, because you can give out cards that they can be scanned. I'm going to go ahead and type in a patient and bring up Pauline Anthony. So we're going to go ahead and cash out here. Oh, before I cash out, I want to comment. So you can see at the bottom, Pauline Anthony, silver level member of the program, currently has 391 points. And is going to get an additional 29 points in this transaction, of which 0 are bonus points. So we'll hit enter. Now, this is showing you that feature that I talked about, where I've turned on that we can create a gift certificate right there at the till. And so in this case, it's saying, listen, they have 391 points. Would you like to give them a gift certificate for the full amount of for $3.91? And so if you want to create that gift certificate for this, then we can do that by hitting F1. And then when you print the receipt, it will then follow on and print that gift certificate. And that gift certificate is serialized like all the others, and can simply be scanned the next time they come in. So I really like this feature because you don't have to mail and you don't have to email. It's really easy to use at the till. And so we have quite a few customers that are using that feature and really like it. But it also reduces that ability to communicate with the customer where you're making exciting for that weekly or monthly email that they're looking forward to. And it reminds them to come back into the pharmacy. So, there's pluses and minuses to all of these different ideas. So now let's go ahead and do a couple of other items. And this time I'm going to bring up, I'm going to bring up, where did it go? There it is. Okay, I'm going to bring up a gift certificate. So this can be what a gift certificate looks like if you're printing and emailing it. It would go out as a PDF when you email it, so that and then you customize it. So obviously you can have your own logo and your store's address and all of that, and you can even change some of this text. It shows the expiration date, the serial number and expiration date, and then here's the actual gift certificate. And so now that can be scanned at the register. So I'm going to pull this onto a different screen so it's out of my way from the register, and then we'll this one is, there we go. Okay, so make that a little bigger on my screen. Okay, so let's do, we bring up the customer, and this is Stephanie Montgomery. So we bring up the customer. Stephanie is a gold level member with 285 points, and she's going to get 43 points for this transaction. And she gives us the certificate, and there we go. I scan the certificate, and it takes the loyalty $10 off. You see the amount tendered to 10, the amount remaining at $36.59, and now we can tender out the other way, however we need to, and we'll just do cash in this case. Now, I have it set up. You wouldn't normally do this, but because the way I have my parameters set up right now, it's doing both of these things. Typically, you wouldn't do. You would do one or the other. If you're printing gift certificates, you wouldn't turn on the feature to do this, and if you're doing it the other way, you wouldn't. If you're doing this, you wouldn't be printing gift certificates. So anyway, but this again takes us back to the screen that I showed you earlier. Okay, now let's make a couple of changes. So I'm gonna leave the register. And I'm going to go to product management because I want to show you this very cool loyalty promo editor. So when I talked about making it exciting, there's a couple of tools that we can use to help do that. And one of them is the loyalty promo editor. So we can create a promo event, and I've got one that I just turned off called double points, and I'm going to bring that back up. So I can create this one I've called double points, and I can say, that this is going to be good for let me cancel that, from today until we'll go through the end of September. So it's a September promotion, and it applies to the regular price matrix. It's a multiplier, and the multiplier is 2 times whatever we add to this. So when I go in here, I had already added these items. So I said, all of this one particular product set, I'm adding, and they're getting double the points. So now let's watch how this works at the register. So, you can do anything here, by the way, before I go to that. The way you get items in is you can query them. So I guess I should show this piece, kind of important. So you can query the database however you want, by find line, by vendor. Let's say that you wanted to do this with, you're carrying a specific a new line of vitamins and supplements, and you want to really promote that line of vitamins and supplements to your loyal customers. You could do that right here. Maybe you want to do something. A real common one is with your private label products, giving double points on your private label points, or just giving bonus points on your private label products. So your imagination really is the limit on what you can do here. But once you create this, then it's really cool how it works at the till, very seamlessly. So I'm going to go ahead, get out of here, and then I'm also going to make one other change. So we're going to make a change in the loyalty parameters. So we're going to turn off the print gift certificate at the till. And in this case, we really wouldn't be doing gift certificates at all. So, I've done this and they're there, but if you were going to go with this path, you probably would choose not to do gift certificates ever, and you wouldn't be printing them at the till. You wouldn't be doing them back here. You would simply turn this feature on that allows you to display points at the register and give the customer the option of redeeming those points right there during the transaction. So we'll go ahead and say okay here. And then go back into the register. Okay, so scan some items. Okay, so these items add up to about just under $20. But you'll see if you look down here at the bottom that they're going to be getting 39 points, so double that. So that was part of our promotion, right? Double these items. So they're going to get 39 points, and of the 39 points, 20 points are bonus points. So that's how that promotional piece works. So I'll go ahead and bring up one of our customers. And let's see how Able is doing. Okay, and so this is what I was talking about, where we just set it up where now the system will prompt at the register for the customer to redeem points. So you would do this and not use gift certificates at all, not print them at the till, and not print them in the back or email them. This gives you can just do it right there at the till. Now here's, that's great, but there's the downside is that you're not communicating with the customer. You're not encouraging them with a coupon to come back in after the fact. So, or a gift certificate to come back in after the fact. These are business decisions you have to make. There's no one size fits all. We have all of these options because we know that for you to have a successful program, you have to have options and do what fits best into your environment and with your customer base. So in this case, there's 102 points, which has a value of $1 too, and they can use up to 100 points to redeem $1. So we'll go ahead and hit enter here. And now it's taking that $1 off, the amount remaining at $20. And okay, so that takes care of customer loyalty and the things that we can do. Now, before I let you go, I just want to comment on one of the tool that makes customer loyalty even more exciting, and that's something called Advanced Gift with Purchase. An Advanced Gift with Purchase is really powerful, and it's going to take me 20 to 30 minutes to go through Advanced Gift with Purchase. So I'm going to do that next month. That's going to be my after climb next month. But I just want to point out that with advanced gift with purchase, you can do it for your non-loyalty customers as well, but you can create specific advanced gift with purchase event type situations by loyalty level as well. And that is a really powerful tool. So I'm excited to show that to you next month. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. Bringing back my video. And if you have questions, please get with our support organization. They just give us an email, give us a call, and they can help you 24/7, get all of this set up and help you create an exciting program for your pharmacy. Thanks, everybody, and have a terrific day.